Welcome back. So the last form of strategic position is access. Access-based positioning, the way they describe it in the article is that it's a way to reach customers differently. And Michael Porter's right. Normally we think of this in terms of geography. They focus on Carmike cinemas, which are movie theaters that are focused predominantly in rural areas where there's no other movie theaters around, so they're going to go to the local movie theater, and they provide more family-friendly movies and stuff, because they know that most people are not going to go that far for a movie theater. They might go. I could see somebody maybe driving an hour to a movie theater, maybe, probably not though. They probably want something more like a half an hour. And so a lot of this stuff in access based positioning. How should I put it? Those of you that have been watching some of my other videos, like the BCG2 matrix, we talk about fragmented industries. Fragmented industries are ones that normally take advantage of access. And you think about this. Think about a plumber. A plumber is probably not, I live in Texas now. I'm not going to go all the way to Italy to get a plumber. I'm just not. But I probably will get a plumber somewhat local. So that plumber has a competitive advantage that's access-based. Because it's local. I'm only going to go so far. Same thing with gyms, barber shops. You're only going to go so far for these particular services. And if you can reach those customers that are not being reached in some other way geographically, then you can take advantage of access-based positioning. Now here's the kicker, and here's my critique of Michael Porter. I believe that he has left out other ways to access customers. He's focusing on geography. Let me give an example to illustrate. Think about people with linguistic disabilities, physical or mental handicaps. Here's an example. My grandma, couldn't hear very well towards the end of her life. She just couldn't hear. And so one of the perfect devices for her was a cell phone called the Jitterbug, and it had like huge buttons so that you could see and push it very easily. It had very simple features so it didn't intimidate the elderly population. And I'll tell you, that speaker on that Jitterbug, it would knock out a rhino. Like, hi grandma, hi grandma. It was like so loud the neighbors have to like pound on the wall and say, turn that cell phone down, right? We're trying to sleep. That thing had a speaker like you wouldn't believe, right? Okay, I may be exaggerating slightly, but you get the idea. So for her, my grandmother, the Jitterbug was a way to be able to see the pads so she could call and to be able to hear her loved ones. They reached her in a way that a regular cell phone could not. Thinking about certain universities, there are certain universities that make a special effort to cater with those with disabilities. Okay? They have more wheelchair-friendly classrooms. They're just designed so that those with physical handicaps are more accommodated than they would be, other places. That's another example. Think of, you go to certain areas where there are large minority populations that speak a certain language. If you are the kind of business that provides services and translation help, or even just something as simple as a sign or a label in multiple languages, you are also engaging in access-based positioning, right? Imagine coming to a foreign country where maybe even the writing is different, but then everything is underneath in your language in a particular store. You're going to want to go back to that store over and over and over because you know whether you're buying flour, sugar, or salt, for example. So that's another way of finding access. So it's reaching customers differently. It's not a matter of providing mass-produced mass market goods or all of the goods for a particular customer group, but it's a matter of reaching whichever customers you have differently. Now I always get asked, well, is there any way are these like mutually exclusive things? No, of course not. You can usually have 2 out of the 3. So let's give an example. If you're looking at access, okay? Walmart is a great example of access-based positioning. There is a Walmart in practically every rural community in America, and they provide, of course, what I would argue would be, especially for a rural customer, a form of needs-based positioning, because they provide all of the goods and services for that particular group. So they have both access and needs. I could also see, I live in a relatively small town. Actually don't even know if we have a Jiffy Lube here, but assuming we did, it might be the only Jiffy Lube within 100 miles, and so they would also have access. I have not thought of any businesses as of yet that provide variety, needs, and access. I haven't thought of any as of yet. If you have an example, put it in the comments. I'd be curious to see it. But I think that's part of the paradox with strategy, and the whole point of trade-offs is, it's impossible to be everything to everybody simultaneously. So because of that definition, I think it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to meet all three kinds of strategic positions. However, if you can think of something, put it in the comments down below, because I'd love to hear about it and I'd love to think about it. I've been teaching this article for a few years, and none of my students have come up with one that actually meets all three different positions. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, hit that like button. That's a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. I'm a starving YouTube creator. If you have any questions, post them in the comments down below. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.